Okay, I think we now know enough about the system to put it into action. So let's take a look at the method for using the AA matrix. So the story here, there are two actors in the story. The first is the scanner, the one using the scan, is EVMX, a Mexican company in the Coahuila, Mexico region, near the border of San Antonio, Texas. And this is one of those maquiladora deals. There's a maquiladora region or zone. And this is the preferred this is where manufacturing infrastructure has preferred crossing and preferred relationships with American companies and American market. So all the big multinationals produce in the Maquiladora region. And General Motors has just moved another big facility, another big operation into the Coahuila section of Mexico. Those are pronunciation challenges. All right, so EVMX is in the Coahuila area. EVMX has just signed on to consult with General Motors on their latest EV project at this Maquiladora zone of Coahuila. EVMX has recently been approached by Toggl, the Turkish national car company, about a significant project involving the manufacturing of the electrical system for Toggl's new series of EVs. This is a straight OEM deal, but there is potential for more, and that's where you come in. All right, so there are the charts I pulled on Mexico and Turkey. Now we'll scan this later, but as I describe what we're doing, just take a look at this chart and look at it in two ways. First, you're going to look at each country. So Mexico, look at the Mexican culture. 81 power distance, pretty high. 30 individualism, which makes them pretty collectivist. 69 masculinity, which is pretty high, be mature. 82 uncertainty, that's pretty high. Long-term orientation, 24 is low. Indulgence, crazy high at 97. So the first thing we can look at, we can see when we look at the Mexican scores is that 4 of the 6 are above 75 and 1 of the 6 is below 25. So this is, we have some extremes here. I'm especially looking at indulgence and uncertainty avoidance and a bit of the power distance. And then we look at Turkey. Turkey is much more moderate scores. Their uncertainty index is quite high, uncertainty avoidance. But aside from that, they are pretty middle of the road here. So that is going to be quite in contrast with Mexico's numbers. So that's the second thing we do. After we've looked at each individual country, we look at the differentials between them. All right, and that's something we're going to do in this toolkit. All right, so let's introduce, we already introduced EVMX pretty much. The scanner is EVMX. They are the Mexican company. They want to build their own branded product, in this case, around the electrical system of EVs that they can then sell in secondary markets, or second tier markets like Latin America and Middle East, North Africa, and Eastern Europe. So that is EVMX's thinking as they deal with their existing and new partners. Player 2 is Toggl, Turkey's new EV manufacturer, and they already have, they've got an Italian parent / partner, and they already have 5 electric car models ready for production. So they're in this conversation with the EVMX company because they want to outsource the electrical systems cheaply. And they've heard EVMX is good, and they know that Mexico has a competitive advantage in the auto production area. But Toggl already has a Chinese supplier for its batteries and parts. So bridging the culture gap in 5 easy steps. Step 1, we're going to scope the analysis and set up the dimensions we're going to use. In step 2, we're going to score our own organization based on those dimensions. In step 3, we're going to score the other side based, again, on those set dimensions. In step 4, we're going to do variance analysis and figure out where we are very different and are going to obviously have to address the differences. And we're going to be looking for other relationships as well. And then step 5, structural adjustments, where we come up with the deal terms, the pricing, the relationship, the company charter, everything we're going to need to improve the objectives and the variables that we're going to offer at the other side. That's what the structural adjustment is all about, coming up with the self-reinforcing rules of the deal that are going to help make sure both sides do what they say they're going to do. Okay, let's take a look and apply this to our real life situation. Once again, those are the charts. We are the ones in blue. We are Mexico, and we are getting ready for our first big meeting with Turkey. So the first thing we're going to do is set the profile. These are blank right now. If I don't know what to do, I will use the ones I'm about to see, the ones that are being given. If I have specific answers here or specific ideas here, I can use those. But I don't, so I'm going to use time and punctuality, amicability, safety, clear roles, and respect for law. These are the dimensions. These aren't behaviors. These are the from low to high, how important I feel this is, or how likely I am to follow these behaviors. And these are all dimensions. These are the polar opposites I'm trying to rate. So if I rate this low, a 1, I'm not punctual and I don't care about punctuality and I don't understand why anyone would. That's the low end of my poll. The high end of my poll would be, I'm extremely punctual, deadlines are important to me, and I don't understand how people aren't stressed out about this. I don't understand when people are relaxed about time. So that would be the low to the high, the 1 to the 5. And your job is to figure out what each one of those dimensions looks like from low to high. So let me go back up here. So for each one of these dimensions, we're going to have that low to high range. And then we're going to pick where we are and where our counterparty is in between those. Okay, so let's get started. Let's look at Mexico first, and we are going to rank ourselves. So these are the profiles. These are the dimensions we picked, and this is the standard profile, the standard set of dimensions. You can use these just fine. Don't worry about it. If you don't really understand it, or you don't need to press this any further, this is a fine set. This is the set I use. So first thing I'm going to do is rank my punctuality. If I'm low, I don't really care. If I'm high, I'm extremely punctual. Now I'm going to write that little description. I see myself as a 3, but really I guess I'm a 1.5 when others are setting the deadline, and a 4.5 when they're my deadlines. So if I'm setting the numbers, I'm setting them high. So I am going to take that and distill all that down to a 4, which means I am pretty stressy about deadlines. I care about punctuality. My description, I show respect by being where I say I'm going to be, when I say I'm going to be there. And then I do the same thing for all 5 of my dimensions. For amicability, conflict avoidance, I know what I am. I'm going to say 2. I'm going to say I'm pretty low on conflict avoidance. Business is serious to me. I'm not here to make friends. Relationships are based on mutual respect. Safety, I gave myself a 4 based on the Hofstadter scores. And for clear roles, based on my indulgence scores and my masculinity scores, I'm going to say, and my power distance scores, I'm going to say I'm pretty high here, 4.5. I like titles. I like having a good title, and I expect to negotiate with serious people. And then respect for law, I'm giving myself a 2 because I know all the right people. I have great connections, so I don't worry about the little laws that much. All right, so there I have it. I've scored myself, and I've given the reasons why. Now I'm going to take the same thing. I'm going to look at the Turkey Auto Company, the Toggl people, and I'm going to rate them. There's what I'm using, and that's what I care about. So now I'm going to make guesses about what the Turkish people are going to be like. I give them pretty low on this one. I'll just assume they're relaxed on time. And these are other assumptions I've made based on the Hofstede analysis. Okay, now I'm going to take those two charts, I'm going to smash them together. So unfortunately, the colors are pretty similar, but us is the one on top. So the punctuality 4 versus 2, amicability is about the same, safety is about the same, clear roles about the same, respect for laws is very different. So let's go through one by one and see what the gap analysis tells us. Okay, so the first thing, us versus them, punctuality, timing, and performance is going to be a big issue. I can see that. Also, respect for law, who's making the laws, whose laws are we following? This could be a big deal because I don't really want to be jerked around with a lot of their rules and regulations, especially if they're trying to comply with European laws, which are very difficult. In the middle, safety. Safety looks good because we both agree, but all that might mean is that we're both pretty skeptical and we're both pretty untrusting. So we have to pay attention to that. That might be a problem. So now that I've done my variables, now it's time for step 5. Step 5 is the structural response. So I'm not going to just say, well, I'm going to do my best because this is such a big difference. I'm just going to do my best to be more patient, because you never do that. I mean, yes, it's a great thing to say, and you should be more patient. You should. But if you know that you're not patient, then saying I'll try my best to be more patient just as the deal is melting down is not a good idea, because that's when you'll be least patient. So the best thing to do is to choose new variables. And here are some that I have out here. And some are like good news, talking about like high-level networking efforts at major US auto shows, if they want exposure to that, which a lot of times they do. That's a great thing to offer. This is fun. But here's where you also might talk about making scope of activities a variable, or ownership structure is a separate variable you're going to bring in early, because you know that you're probably going to be, if you're the Mexican side, you're going to be wired a little bit tighter than the Turkish side. You might have more of a go, let's get it done attitude, and the Turkish side might not. Okay, so that's where, and this is where, let's go back. This is where you see this. So this is why I'm saying you've got to bring up the positive stuff, yes, like technology transfers and high-level efforts, and that's cool. But you also have to bring up the negative stuff, like scope of activities. You got to nail that down. Who's doing what and where. You got 2 alpha dogs here. So you, being the smart one, are going to, in advance, get ready to discuss the limits to your alpha dogness. Scope of activities, ownership structure, division of power, not getting ripped off, intellectual property protection, who's going to own that. And then high-level networking events. You go to these things all the time. To you, they're not that big a deal. But for the Turkish side, they're probably a big deal. So this is your chance to invite them along as your guest, introduce them to the General Motors people, introduce them to all the different companies where you have good relationships. It will count for a lot, but you're going to get something in exchange. And technology transfer of new chip designs. So these are new variables that you want to see on the table, and that you're going to offer, a lot in order to change the negotiating agenda. So this is going to feed back into that Goblin's guy, that Lin matrix. This is where we see that. So scope of the agreement is now showing up as one of your variables. This wasn't one of your variables before, or maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. But now you after this AA matrix, you're able to bring in not only this new variable up here, but you're able to scope it out based on what you want, 50/50 owned, research and development department in Mexico using Turkish engineers. That's what your L would be. You want to control this. You want them to bring in their engineers to work with yours in your facility. Intermediate, you both are working on the same thing, but in different parts of the world. And the bottom line is you need an R&D department. If there's no R&D department, if you're not both investing in the R&D department, then this doesn't make sense to you. And you know to walk away. So this is how you use the A matrix, the analyze adjust matrix, to bring in Hofstadter and to come up with better deals by focusing on better variables, better things that you can offer cheaply, and things that you know are cheap for him to provide, but that are expensive for you to receive. Okay, final word. The AA analysis works best when you remember that your job is to develop structural responses. That's new deal terms, new relationships, and maybe new valuations. You're not there to fix his culture. You're there to fix a better agreement between the two of you. Suspend assumptions and hearsay. These things can get kind of speculative really fast, and it's important that you base your assumptions on anecdotal evidence or experience. Use the tool iteratively. In other words, the first time you do it, you're going to be understanding where your knowledge gaps are, but then you should do it again. You should, revisit this and gather more information and run the tool again, because you not only want to find where the gaps in your knowledge are, but as you address those gaps, you want to make more informed decisions about valuations and deal structures. Focus on their values and their priorities and look for things that you can offer them that are cheap for you to give, but expensive for them to receive. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I'll talk to you again soon.